Okay, and welcome back, fire alarm technicians. Today's video, we're going to be showing you the NAC Disable Re-enable button. It's going to be a button on the front of the panel that you will program. Siemens will teach you how to do this if you ask them. They'll send you a nice PDF, maybe a few pictures, step by step. I always find it easier with a video, so here we go. On my screen, I got a clean install. I'm going to add a panel. You probably already have a panel if you're adding to it. That's fine, but let's go add one panel. Okay. We're in hardware tree. We don't need to be in hardware. Let's go to the control tree. We're going to open up and we're going to find the fire control group. We're going to add a new fire control, standard fire control. So now we get the fire control. Give it a name that makes sense. Click on overview and the name will be NAC Disable. Currently, there's nothing that's ever going to cause this control to go off. That's fine. Move over to the effects. What is this control going to do? So we're going to bypass the NACs. So by default, your panel already has a NAC control built in. I'm going to go ahead and hide all this so you'd have to find it. But you want to go to, you have this list here. We're going to go to commands, bypass, enable. We're looking for a bypass. And let's say you have to pay attention right here. If you are not in control tree, we're going to have to hit control and open it up. We're going to find the panel we want to work with. In this case, I only have one panel. So 922, we're going to open up the alarming control group. And by default, it creates a general NAC control. Hit assign. All right, so at this point now, this control will bypass the NACs. But we want this button to toggle, also turn the NACs back on. So we're going to go find the opposite of bypass is enable. And this button's also going to enable the general NAC control. Go ahead and close this out. And so see here on effects, I should have an even number. For whatever I'm bypassing, I'm also turning back on. But right now, if we were to activate this control just the way it is, it'll turn the NACs off and right back on. It does absolutely nothing that we need. On the NAC disable, if we go over to the enable part, this is going to be done with a button. So when you buttons press the first time, it's going to bypass. And when you press it a second time, the button is inverted. So we're going to hit this checkbox. So only the inverted stuff will happen on the second button press. Okay, now we're done here. Let's go to operation. We're going to open up the 922, open up the PMI, open up standard keys. We're going to be working with user 4. If you're not sure which one that is, you get your screen with 3 buttons directly below it. And then right below those 3 buttons, there's 3 buttons in a column. User 4 is the top button of that column. It goes user 4, 5, 6. And then below the audible silence acknowledge reset, it goes 7, 8, 9, 10. But again, we're working with user number 4. So we're going to click user 4. We're going to right click and we're going to unassign. We want user 4 completely clean. Now we're going to click it again, right click, assign. And so what we want this button to do is activate the control. So we're going to activate. If you're not in control already, go to control. We're going to find that fire control we just made. So fire control, NAC disable, assign. And it says there's no more assignable elements. You're tempted to press close. Do not press close. If you did, just go back to assign again. But at the bottom here, we got related LED. We're going to open that up. We're going to click on it. And I said we're working with user 4. So we got LED 14, user 4, trouble/bypass. We're going to click on that and hit assign. Now we're done. We can close this. Okay, still in the standard key, we're going to click on this and we're going to make sure it has that inverted ability. So we'll go over to operation, details. Nope, not here. We're going to actually click on the fire control itself. Toggle function, reverse command, deactivate. So this is going to make that button press happen the second time to re-enable. Now right here, also important to note, you got access level 2.1. So by default, 2.1 means that If somebody presses this button, you need to be logged into the system. So if you just walked up to this button and pressed it, it's going to ask you for the password. If you want this button live at all times, or you don't need a password, this is where you would change that from 2.1 to number 1. That's up to your choice. If you want people to be able to freely disable it, this is where you do it. For now, I'm going to keep it 2.1. You have to hit a password to disable the NACs. There is one more part that people often miss here. Above standard keys, there's LEDs. And again, we did LED 14, trouble bypass. We're going to assign LED 14 trouble bypass. What's going to be is whenever we activate the fire control that we made. So activation, control tree, find a fire control. Hit assign. And now your NAC button should work when you upload it. In the event that you added more NACs, you can add more to control. For example, I will add a whole nother panel. I'll go to hardware, new panel. There we go. I got a second panel. Also, on the second panel, we will add NHCP. That will also be a NAC. Okay. And then we also have the NAC card on this one as well. So let's go over to the peripheral board, onboard NAC. We'll add the other card. Optional NAC. Let me tell you, yeah, we got a couple more NACs to add here. We'll add a Class A circuit. Sure, whatever. We're just adding more NACs. All these NACs are added. Now let's go over to control. We have this effect here. We're going to add some more assign. And go down here to the second panel. We can make the button press from the first panel, turn off the NACs or the second panel. All we have to do is find the NACs. So we got the general NAC here. Oh, you see, I forgot to assign those NACs, so they're not going to go off yet. Let me fix that. This general NAC here, effect. I'm going to go ahead and assign. We got that Class A we made, and we get HCP. So all these are going off anytime there's an alarm. Okay. And again, we go back to the button we made, effects. We're going to assign. And again, we're going to find our second panel we just made. And in the second panel, we have the general NAC control. We're going to disable the general NAC control. That'll do everything associated with all these NACs that we just made. Again, we're bypassing control, general NAC control for the second panel. And then again, we're going to re-enable it with the toggle button. Any enables should be set for inverted. Now with the press of that same button, now we just made it where the one button press at this panel right here will turn off the NACs for both panels. If you wanted to have the same button on the second panel, you do not have to recreate the control. As long as these panels are connected, we can go to Operation. We can open up the second panel's PMI. Kind of repeat the same steps. We're going to make user 4, unassign. And again, we're going to assign it. We're going to activate. We're going to go to control, and that first panel is control. We don't need to recreate control. The controller is already working for the entire site. Now, if you had these going for just an individual panel, you'd have to make separate controls. But this is for the entire site. You see, I don't know if you caught that there, but I closed out the dialog box. I need to assign that LED. So let me go back into it. At the bottom, related LED. And again, that's going to be user 4, trouble bypass. Again, I need to make sure that does the inversion. So we click on the fire control. Toggle function. deactivate. So going to keep the password on. And then before we leave, we need to go up to the LEDs part up here, find that trouble bypass for user 4, and assign it to the activation of the control. Activation. Remember the controls on the first panel, fire control. All right, with this, now we're ready for 2 panels, both of them having the user 4 button. You press it, it'll ask you for the password. Once you hit the password, the light will come on beside the button and your NAC will be disabled for the entire site. Pressing the button again should do the toggle function, the inversion, which will turn everything back on like normal. And with that, you have been trained on how to make these buttons.